There are moments when something inexplicable pulses within us, a sudden shiver, a warmth in the chest, a sweet unease that seems to announce something extraordinary. These sensations, often overlooked, are profound signs that the soul is about to relive an ancient reunion. Before the mind can understand, the body already knows. It anticipates, reacts, vibrates. In every heartbeat and in every quickened breath, something is preparing us for an encounter that goes beyond chance, a reunion with our other psychic half. In this video, you will be guided on a journey of self-discovery based on the principles of Carl Jung's analytical psychology to understand why and how the body recognizes the arrival of the soulmate before consciousness can perceive it. If you believe nothing happens by chance, comment below, "My body feels it before my mind understands." In Carl Jung's analytical psychology, the concept of the soulmate goes far beyond traditional romantic ideals. Jung did not speak in sentimental terms, but in symbolic language, where the soulmate represents the most intense projection of our own psyche. Before meeting someone we feel is the right one, a profound inner movement begins long beforehand, a preparation of the unconscious. When we are about to encounter this archetypal figure, the body reacts because it is a bridge between the conscious and the unconscious. Jung affirmed that our emotional complexes, once activated, manifest somatically. A meeting with the soulmate touches what is deepest. It awakens the shadow, summons the animus or anima, and propels the ego into the process of individuation. Projection is inevitable. We see in the other hidden parts of ourselves, idealized or repressed, and the body feels this projection as excitement, restlessness, or even discomfort. The presence of this person activates emotional centers that normally remain dormant. It is as if the body was saying, something essential is about to happen. The integration of opposites, the inner masculine and feminine, is also revealed in this encounter. The soulmate, in this context, is not someone who completes us, but someone who reflects what must be integrated within. The body, in its archetypal wisdom, recognizes this. That is why tremors, a racing heart, or that strange familiarity are ways in which the unconscious communicates, "This meeting is part of your destiny." Individuation, the ultimate goal of the Jungian journey, passes through this mirror the other represents. And the body, sensitive to the soul's signals, prepares the ground for this moment of profound transformation. For Jungian psychology, the body is more than a biological structure. It is a living extension of the unconscious, a symbolic field where the deepest contents of the soul manifest. Long before the rational mind understands the meaning of an encounter, the body already gives signs, subtle or intense, that something extraordinary is about to unfold. Cold sweats, tingling, changes in sleep, irregular heartbeats, inexplicable restlessness, or sudden euphoria with no apparent cause. All of these are not merely physiological reactions, but archetypal manifestations announcing a psychic transition. When a soulmate draws near, it is not just a romantic encounter, but the recognition of a vital part of ourselves. The unconscious perceives it before consciousness does. And this recognition is translated physically. Jung emphasized that symbols and archetypes manifest through emotions and sensations, often bodily ones, especially when the ego is not yet prepared to handle what emerges. The body, then, acts as a messenger of the unconscious, creating signs that cannot be ignored. This bodily wisdom is connected to what Jung called the transcendent function, the psychic process that seeks to integrate inner opposites. Meeting the soulmate often represents one of these moments when the soul faces something that demands transformation. And since the unconscious knows this encounter is a portal to individuation, it triggers somatic mechanisms to prepare the ego for the symbolic impact that is to come. Sudden anxiety or a magnetic pull toward the other are expressions of this. It is important to understand that the body does not lie. When an emotion is too strong to be contained in the rational field alone, it escapes through the pores, the muscles, the nervous system. Jung observed that many patients, when approaching decisive moments of self-knowledge, experienced physical symptoms, dreams that disturbed sleep, vivid sensations during the day, even psychosomatic illnesses. In the case of meeting a soulmate, the body vibrates with an intensity that seems to have no logical cause, but it has symbolic origin. This state of bodily hypersensitivity can be compared to an energy field being activated. It is not esotericism, but the way the unconscious directly influences the nervous system and perception. The body begins to operate at another frequency because it is preparing for a confrontation with the unknown within. The other person functions as a mirror, a catalyst, a bearer of symbols that touch forgotten or repressed parts. The body then vibrates with the imminence of this reunion with those parts of the psyche. These physical manifestations are also connected to the archetypes that dwell in the collective unconscious. When a powerful archetype is about to emerge, such as that of true love, divine union, or wholeness, the body responds as though invaded by an ancestral force. This explains why, in many cases, meeting a soulmate is preceded by a sense of déjà vu or instant recognition. It is as if the body knew that moment had already been inscribed in the lines of psychic destiny. The relationship between the unconscious and the body is cyclical. The unconscious sends the signal, the body responds, and the mind begins to seek meaning. When this cycle is respected and listened to carefully, the individual opens to experience the encounter with awareness. When ignored, the risk is to project the archetype of the soulmate onto anyone, confusing the true call with mere idealization. That is why listening to the body becomes an act of wisdom. The body, in this sense, is the unconscious's silent oracle. It warns, anticipates, prepares. It speaks through what we feel, even when we do not understand. When the soulmate approaches, we do not need to see to know. The body feels, and in that feeling lies the first answer of destiny. The encounter with the soulmate, according to Jungian psychology, is not just a moment of luminous connection, but also a shadowed invitation to self-knowledge. This happens because, in its deepest essence, the soulmate represents the most faithful mirror of what has not yet been integrated within us. And the first mechanism at play in this process is projection. Jung described projection as an inevitable phenomenon in which unconscious aspects of the psyche are placed onto another, especially in emotionally intense relationships. When someone enchants us overwhelmingly, what we feel is not only attraction, it is the reflection of parts of us yearning for expression and recognition. By projecting, we transfer onto the other what we cannot yet accept or see in ourselves. In the context of love, this includes both idealized qualities and repressed aspects. The figure of the soulmate often carries the weight of our unrealized dreams, the inner beauty we have not dared to live, the wounds not yet healed. Thus, recognizing a soulmate often feels like standing before something both familiar and unknown, a magnetic force that touches the shadow and reveals what is hidden. The shadow, for Jung, represents everything excluded from consciousness, but still influencing our behavior and emotions. It is a psychic territory that holds both pain and potential. Meeting the soulmate activates this territory. Suddenly, the other confronts us with emotions we thought were overcome, with desires we believed we did not have, with vulnerabilities we avoided facing. And the body responds. Tension, fear, excitement, discomfort, ecstasy. A true emotional and somatic roller coaster. This process is inevitable because the soulmate, contrary to popular belief, does not come to complete us, but to reveal us. They make us cross mirrors, illuminate shadows, and confront fantasies. And what makes this encounter so profound is precisely that it mobilizes not only what we treasure most, but also what has been rejected, forgotten, or judged. The intensity of the experience comes from the collision between the projected ideal and the reality of the unconscious, manifesting through the other. Projection, however, is not negative in itself. Jung did not see projection as a mistake, but as an initial stage in relating to the unconscious. By projecting, we gain the chance to recognize what was hidden. The problem arises when one clings to the projection and refuses to see the other as they truly are. In the case of the soulmate, the risk is idolizing the projected image and losing the opportunity to integrate what that image reveals about oneself. That is why recognizing the soulmate is not simply an emotional or physical knowing. It is a deep call for reintegration of psychic contents. The other becomes the channel through which the soul pushes us into a journey of confrontation and growth, and the body once again reacts to this. It trembles before the truth that imposes itself. The heart races not only from love, but also from fear of the transformation this love demands. The butterflies in the stomach are not just passion, but anticipation of what is about to be revealed. The shadow, when activated, brings forth what we must acknowledge to continue our individuation journey. The soulmate thus becomes a living bridge between who we are and who we can become, and this recognition does not happen only by affinity, but by contrast. Often, the other shows us what we avoid seeing: our dependency, our need for control, our insecurity, or our pride. And this is exactly what makes the encounter so powerful. It forces us to grow. Recognizing a soulmate is not about losing oneself in the other, but about finding oneself through the other. And in this process, projection and shadow are relentless teachers. The body senses when something profound is being touched. Emotions intensify because the psyche is reorganizing itself. The reunion with the soulmate is thus the beginning of an inner alchemy, where the lead of illusions must be transformed into the gold of consciousness. And it is in the heat of this process that true bonds are born, not those based on fantasy, but on the truth of the soul. Within Carl Jung's analytical psychology, two fundamental archetypes operate silently in the depths of the psyche: the anima, representing the feminine principle in man, and the animus, representing the masculine principle in woman. These inner figures are not merely symbolic. They shape our relationships, our romantic ideals, and above all, our perceptions of others. When we are about to meet someone we feel is our soulmate, it is common for these figures to activate intensely. The result is a deep experience of fascination, recognition, and at the same time disorientation. The anima and animus are not just traits of masculinity and femininity. They are structuring forces of the psyche, functioning as bridges between the ego and the unconscious. For a man, the anima is his connection to the inner world, to feelings, sensitivity, creativity, and mystery. For a woman, the animus is access to reason, firmness, action, and structure. These figures are shaped by experiences with the opposite sex, but are also rooted in the collective unconscious. They are not limited to personal experiences. They are archetypal inheritances, manifesting in dreams, behaviors, and especially in our love bonds. When we encounter someone we feel as the one who completes us, we are often before a powerful projection of the anima or animus. For a man, he may feel he has found a woman who embodies all his unconscious longings: the muse, the spiritual guide, the idealized lover. For a woman, the man may be perceived as the hero, the savior, the teacher, or the protector. The body reacts intensely as these archetypal images are alive and charged with emotional energy. There is a magnetism beyond rational logic. Excitement, enchantment, even physical nervousness are manifestations of this symbolic activation. The soulmate, therefore, is often not only a real other, but also a canvas onto which we project these inner figures. And one cannot go through this experience without the body feeling it. Jung observed that when meeting someone who touches the anima or animus, the psyche responds with a kind of sacred shock. The body may experience it as sudden warmth, emotional vertigo, or even a sense of transcendence. There is something familiar, as if that person had always been part of our story, and in a way they are. They belong to the story of the soul. This kind of psychic activation through the other can bring both healing and conflict. When the archetype is unconscious, the relationship tends to be based on idealizations, unrealistic expectations, and deep frustrations. One expects the other to embody the perfection of the archetype, which is impossible. But when the anima and animus begin to be recognized as inner aspects, the bond transforms. The relationship stops being an emotional prison and becomes a catalyst for individuation. The activation of anima and animus in a deep encounter is therefore a psychic rite of passage. The body signals this with all its ancestral wisdom. Breathing changes, the gaze deepens, touch gains new weight. It is not merely desire, but a sense of communion. In this moment, the other is not only someone who awakens feelings, but someone who reveals inner worlds. And the more conscious we are of these archetypes in action, the more we can grow through the relationship. These archetypes, once integrated, do not disappear, they transform. The matured anima becomes a guide of intuition and spirituality for man. The matured animus becomes clarity, rightful action, and expression of truth in woman. The presence of a soulmate has the power to accelerate this maturation process precisely because their existence confronts us with everything still unbalanced. And the body, faithful to this inner movement, remains the first to perceive, announcing with tremors and pulsations that something greater is unfolding. Thus, the true function of the soulmate is not to lead us to the ecstasy of idealized love, but to awaken inner wholeness. The activation of anima and animus in deep relationships is the soul's call for us to stop seeking outside what must be recognized within. And when this happens, love ceases to be a distorted mirror and becomes a path to consciousness. From the Jungian perspective, destiny is not a straight line or a set of predetermined events. It is a living spiral that leads us, consciously or unconsciously, toward the center of ourselves, the process of individuation. This journey toward wholeness involves confronting the deepest layers of the psyche, including the shadow, complexes, and archetypes that shape our world experience. In this context, the soulmate does not appear by chance. Their presence arises as a symbolic call, a force that drives us to integrate everything forgotten, denied, or idealized. And when such an encounter happens, there is a clear sense that destiny is in motion. Individuation, as defined by Jung, is the process by which the individual becomes what they truly are, not a copy, nor a social adaptation, but a unique, integrated, whole being. This process is profoundly challenging, requiring ruptures, loss of illusions, and above all, surrender to the unknown. And few events are as catalytic for this process as meeting someone we feel is a soulmate. This other is not only a romantic partner, but a living mirror of the psyche, reflecting what is still lacking and, at the same time, what already pulses in the unconscious awaiting expression. Often, these encounters do not follow a linear logic. They arise at unexpected moments with unlikely people in contexts that defy reason. Yet when they happen, they carry a silent certainty, an emotional depth that cannot be explained rationally. The body responds immediately, as if recognizing something ancient and sacred. There is an intensity that transcends the ordinary, as if a veil were momentarily lifted, allowing glimpses of psychic wholeness to manifest through the relationship. This kind of bond does not exist for comfort or immediate stability. It exists for the soul. The soulmate, in this context, is a transformative agent. Their role is to challenge us, confront us, strip us emotionally until nothing remains but authenticity. In doing so, they activate the movement of individuation. The ego, accustomed to its defenses and masks, is unsettled by the presence of someone who sees beyond. What begins then is not just a relationship but a spiritual and psychological journey. The body follows this process with precision. It falls ill when there is resistance, vibrates when there is surrender, goes silent when the inner truth is denied. Physical symptoms arise when the soul demands passage. The heart tightens, the stomach churns, dreams intensify. Everything points to an inner crossing. The presence of the soulmate is like a portal, and crossing it means leaving behind the familiar for a territory where the real self can emerge. Not rarely, these destined encounters demand difficult choices. They may involve separations, ruptures with old patterns, or a complete review of identity. And this not because the soulmate requires something external, but because they awaken something inside that can no longer be ignored. Individuation at this point ceases to be a theoretical concept and becomes a vital necessity. Love, when true, is not just a bond, it is a fire that purifies. Curiously, the soulmate does not always stay. In many cases, their function is symbolic. They appear to catalyze a process that will continue with or without their presence. Jung acknowledged that certain relationships emerge at key moments in life, not to last, but to awaken. They are archetypal relationships, shaped by the unconscious to provoke the necessary movement. And once this mission is fulfilled, the relationship may transform or even dissolve, but what was activated remains. Individuation is not completed in a single encounter, but some encounters make it impossible to go on living unconsciously. The soulmate, when genuinely felt, is not a figure that brings answers, but someone who provokes the right questions. Someone who reveals not the path, but the need to walk. And the body, always in tune with the movements of the soul, signals that the moment is not ordinary. It is a milestone in the existential journey. Encounters of destiny are not romanticized illusions. They are profound calls from the psyche, urging us to stop postponing the inevitable, the meeting with who we truly are. And in this process, the soulmate does not take us outside ourselves, but leads us back to the center. Some encounters do not ask permission to happen. They simply arise, cross our lives, and transform us forever. When the body begins to vibrate differently, when dreams intensify, when breathing changes for no apparent reason, we may be standing before something greater than a simple romance. We may be about to cross paths with someone who carries within themselves the symbol of our psychic wholeness. According to Jung, this type of encounter is not merely human, it is archetypal. It activates the shadow, the anima, the animus, and invites the ego to step out of its comfort zone toward individuation. The soulmate, therefore, is not a prize but a mirror. They show us who we are, who we were, and who we can still become. And the body, sensitive and intuitive, always knows when something like this is approaching. If you have come this far, it is because some part of you recognizes this call. Do not ignore the signs. They do not come from the mind, but from the soul. Subscribe to the channel and watch the video now appearing on your screen. It may be the next step in this journey of inner transformation. Your soul already knows, and so does your body,